It's basically just a lot of cheating, whether it's on your wife back at home or with other crew members on board.
You are like a sheep and they are the wolf, ready to eat you girls.
You have 6 children, like, what?
Even though the marriage was already ruined, but little did she know.
One week you'd see the captain down in the crew bar shacking up with one of the girls in the waitstaff team, and then the next week you'd see the exact same captain touring his wife and son around the cruise ship.
So, people call it ship life, but is this just a cute phrase to excuse some of the wildest behaviour you have ever seen? Today, we are diving into the dramatic, emotional and sometimes messy reality of cruise ship relationships.
Aye. Dating on cruise ships is like Love Island on steroids.
It really is.
Wild. Boy, do I have some stories. You've kind of got 2 extremes. The ones who will couple up pretty much straight away, stay together the rest of the contract, and that's them done. And then also the people who float about, change it up, have a good time. My track record, I've got 2 exes from cruise ships and I pretty much moved into their cabin on like day 2. Like, it's crazy. And then you're eating 3 meals a day with them, you're working with them, obviously living with them, your social group becomes one.
It's crazy.
So it's like a week, I would say, on a cruise ship of dating someone is like a month, 2 months in the real world.
She is absolutely right. And I also love the fact that she pointed out that there's 2 camps. There's the people who couple up pretty much immediately, and then there's the people who are just hoeing about.
Having relationships while working on a cruise ship, let's talk about it. My answer, don't. So it could be your first cruise contract, you've got a boyfriend and you've explained that you're going to work on a ship, but you'll be back in 6 months, everything's going to be fine. Honestly, it's probably not going to be fine. I can't say everyone. Most people I know that have gone on with a boyfriend has left with a boyfriend, but a different one. You never know what ship life is going to be like until you're on there. Let's be real. It is a whole new world. Like, you're working with these people, eating with these people, getting off the ship, exploring, drinking in crew bar, like everything with these people. They become your family. You become very close. Some people become closer than other people. Yeah, people who don't work on a cruise ship don't understand what it's like when you're on there and arguments happen, and they think if we're going to like the crew bar every night that we're going to the bar every night, and it's not like that. Like, the crew bar is basically our living room, essentially. So they don't usually work. Now let's talk about relationships while you're actually on the ship. It can seem beautiful, and the only way I can explain it is it's like a holiday romance. It's like a holiday romance. Why? Because you're working on a cruise ship, you're going to these amazing places. Like, your first date can be hiring a Mustang in Hawaii, and that's your first date. So obviously things are going to go well, and things progress very quickly because you're living together, you're doing everything together. It's not like normal circumstances where you might go on a date a week or 2 a week. You're literally every single day you are seeing that person. So things move very, very quickly. Now, that's all fun and games until, when does your contract end? When does their contract end? Okay, one of you might leave a month before the other. Not too bad, right? If you love each other, it's great. How do you know you're going to get the same next ship? Because on a cruise ship, a lot of people are hired by third parties. So the spa's different, the shops are different.
Harding's, Diner,
like, the entertainment might be different, you never know. So it's not easy to get on the same ship. Now, if you both work for the same employer, that's a lot easier, and you can ask to link your contracts and they can work it out that way. However, if you're not, it's harder. It also depends on what job you have. So there was only one of me on each ship. So trying to get my job on a different ship, it really just depends where it came up.
If 2 people message me and they're a couple and they want to get on a cruise ship together, the only real way to do it is get hired by the same company at the same time for the same job.
So it's hard. I say, if you're just going on a cruise ship, just go and enjoy yourself. You're going to make the best friends, the best memories ever, and just don't get too caught up in it, in the relationship side of things, in my opinion. It's not worth it. Right. I've had too many tears over people that don't even matter now. No offence if you're watching this. It seems like the end of the world that you're not going to get on the same next ship, but honestly, it's not. You will survive. I survived. You'll survive.
I could not agree with this girl more, and this is why cruise ship relationships are so intoxicating, because you start your relationship by having first dates that people would literally have to win the lottery to be able to experience, like hiring a Mustang in Hawaii, exploring Dubai, going out in Thailand. When every date feels like a scene from a movie, it's really easy to start to believe that the person you're dating is sent from God, like they are just the best person ever. But the truth is, it's not always the person, it's the circumstances. Cruise ships create this high intensity, high romance bubble that you just can't help get swept up in. I have had some of the most incredible dates when I was working on cruise ships. For one of my dates, I was taken on a gondola in Venice. I mean, can you think of a more romantic date than being taken on a gondola in Venice? So it's really easy to see how people get swept up in this. And it's not just the amazing dates that you're going on together, it's also the loneliness. Because while TikTok may show you the sunsets and the incredible places that you're visiting, what it doesn't show you is how lonely you can feel when you're on a cruise ship, because you're away from your family and your friends and everything you've ever known on land, right? You're living on a ship. So when you meet someone that you really connect with, it's so much more intense than if you met that same person on land. And because you're both living this new lifestyle working on a cruise ship, you almost feel like you're the only person that really understands each other. So just like that girl said, some people go on a cruise ship with a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they leave with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but it's just a different one. Yeah, because the problem is all of a sudden the partner that you have on land doesn't get it, doesn't understand the life you're living, and it's really difficult trying to explain that lifestyle to someone who's never been on a ship, because they just won't get it. And it doesn't make them a bad person, it's just they've never experienced it. And most of the time, connection is built on shared experiences. When you have a conversation with someone for the first time and you realise that you've both been through the same thing, whether that be a trauma or a funny experience or whatever, it bonds you. So for you to be working on a cruise ship and for your partner to have absolutely no idea what that's like, so if you have met someone on board this cruise ship who you really feel like you connect with, and you're in a new destination every day and you're having all of these incredible experiences together, like, what do you think is going to happen?
I just want to talk about this because I feel kind of sad, especially for the girl who just like first comer, first joiner, new hire, don't know anything about life on cruise ship. Because you know what, we are living in this ship with the same people for 6, 7, 8 months, and sometimes we are all feeling lonely. And for some people who really lonely and try as hard as they can to get a girl, or at least one night stand, if you know what I mean. I don't judge anybody, but I also don't mention all the male on the cruise ship is like that. But some people does that. Even the guy who already have a wife at home, or the guy that already have a girlfriend. And I want to warn you, girls who just joined to the cruise ship, new hire, please, please, please be careful. Don't listen to their bullshit, sweet lips that they give to you. Or even sometimes they're really trying so hard to get you, and they will give a gift, any gift, like a chocolate, a clothes. It happened to me, by the way. It's a long story. Before I met my husband, I mean, like in another cruise ship.
Yeah.
But if you accept that gift, that means this guy thinking that you accept their feeling. So
you do have to be careful of different cultures. So what I mean by that is she's saying these guys or girls will buy you gifts to kind of woo you, and if you accept those gifts, they're gonna think that you accept their feelings or you feel the same way or something. When I first went on cruise ships, I didn't get this because my culture is very different. I feel like dating in England is very cold. English people aren't the best at expressing their feelings and romance and all of that. We're known for it, among other things. Whereas people from India are very overt with their feelings, or people from South America I found very like they're not afraid to tell you how they feel. And as a newbie on a cruise ship, that can be like quite overwhelming, and something that you think is unacceptable they might think is acceptable. So that is something to be aware of as well. Like, people's cultures definitely obviously affect how they are when it comes to dating and relationships.
Yeah, this is for a girl, okay? Just be careful, just be strong. But if like in the end, if you meet someone and you catch a feeling and hopefully it's not belong to someone else, then it's good for you, right? Like I do. But like if you catch a feeling with someone that already have a wife or have a husband, or for sure that you will regret it after you finish the relationship with him or her. Because like, what happened on the cruise ship, stay on the cruise ship. But what if you have this feeling already to her or to him, and they're going back home, you going back home, and that's it? I hope you will not regret. I hope you can think twice, and just be careful. Be careful with these people who really thirsty, and for them you are like a sheep and they are the wolf ready to eat you girls. So and if you don't feel comfortable, if you feel uncomfortable, go talk to supervisor, to your manager. If they don't listen, go to the HR, and they will for sure listen. Because harassment, it's not even sexual harassment, okay? By talking like, oh my god, you're so sexy today, if you're not feeling it, if you don't feel comfortable, you can report it, okay? But like sexual harassment, also zero tolerance. These people can go home, okay? So you girls, be brave, talk to someone if it's happened to you, okay? Don't regret it later on. So guys, be careful. Once again, be careful.
Yeah, so like I said, you do have to be aware of people's different cultures, but that doesn't mean you have to accept it. If someone is being inappropriate or stalking you or being a bit too much, obviously you can report it. You can just go to your supervisor and say like, this man or woman is being very persistent and I've made it clear I'm not interested, and they're still, on my case. She did mention people cheating on their spouses back home. We are going to touch on that a little bit later in the video. Now, if you do go on a cruise ship and you find someone that you're interested in, I think it's important to note that relationships move
incredibly fast when you're on board.
So what's the deal with the relationships on cruise ships, and can the crew sleep together?
Well, as you can imagine, when you've got mostly single 20-year-olds and above on board a cruise ship, some kind of stuff does happen. But dating on ships does not come without its problems. Usually you're from two different countries on opposite sides of the world, and even if you're from the same country, usually your contracts don't align, so you never get to see each other. But don't listen to me, some people get married and live happily ever after working on a cruise ship, and it works perfectly for some people. But is it sensible? I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah, some people absolutely make it work and stay together forever, get married, have kids. I actually know a few people who this has happened to, which is wonderful. But I do think you should assume that you are the rule and not the exception, because the people who stay together and get married and move to one another's country, they are definitely the exception to the rule.
Okay, so how do the relationships on board a cruise ship between the crew members work? Well, let's talk about it. Let's just start off by saying it's extremely rare to find somebody that is single on board a cruise ship. If you meet somebody on board who is somebody you want to further your relationship with, like myself, we have this thing and it's called linking your IDs. So what'll happen is you'll go to HR and you'll link your IDs. You'll just basically tell them like, look, I want to live with this person, I want to do all my contracts together, and you'll move in with each other. Now, do they do a good job at keeping you together on contracts? No comment. I mean, I guess it depends on your position on board, but in my experience,
linking your IDs, really, it's useful while you're on board that ship because you can move in together and whatever. But in terms of getting your next contract together and making sure it's all lined up, unless you're with the same company, doing the same job, or at least in the same department, it's gonna be very unlikely that you lineup. Carnival actually are very good for this, very well known. So if you are looking to work on a cruise ship with your spouse or your partner, then maybe Carnival is the way to go. And you might be thinking, why are people linking their IDs and moving in together so fast? Well, so because you're going on these incredible dates, you're seeing each other every single day because you're on the cruise ship, especially if you're in the same department, you work together. So I mean, that's a 10 to 12 hour shift that you are together. Things do move fast. You do get to know this person extremely fast, which can lead you to believe that you do know them very well. However, what I've come to realize, and what many people come to realize, is that you know this person on a cruise ship, and people are very different on cruise ships to how they are on land. So I found this with some of the relationships that I had, and I'm sure they found it with me as well. The way they are on board is not how they are on land. And there were some things that they did on land that I was like, oh, this isn't a great quality. And again, I'm sure they found that with me. I'll give you an example. Driving. When you work on a cruise ship, it does not matter in the slightest that this person cannot drive. However, if you decide to keep your relationship going after your contract ends and you are on land together, you're like, oh, driving, I mean, look, I live in a rural area, so driving is important. Drugs, when you're working on board a cruise ship, can't do drugs, cannot do drugs on board. So when you and your person get on land and all of a sudden there's no zero tolerance drug policy, are these people doing drugs? Maybe, maybe not. But all of these little things, you don't get to see that side of them when you're on board a cruise ship. How are they with their family? Does not matter when you are living your best lives on a cruise ship, but oh, when you start living normal life together and you realise that they're an absolute arsehole to their family members, you're like, oh, that's unfortunate. So not to be a negative Nancy, but I think it's very important to understand that while you might think that you know this person extremely well, you know one side of them extremely well. But the one side of them you do get to know is great. So you're like, well, I know you, I'm spending every day with you anyway, let's move in together. Because if it's your first few contracts, you've both probably got roommates, which makes it difficult to do the deed. So it is tempting to move in with each other and just have your own cabin. But again, is this wise? No, because realistically, you know one side of this person, and living with someone is eye-opening. And speaking of only knowing one side of a person,
let's talk about the relationship culture on ships. If you guys think hookup culture is bad on land, wait till you hear about it on ships. I worked as a dancer on a cruise ship last year, and I'm low-key scarred. It's basically just a lot of cheating, whether it's on your wife back at home or with other crew members on board. But the crazy part about the whole thing is like how normalized it is. I don't know about you guys, but where I'm from, like cheating is just like, oh, you messed up. But on ships, they literally use the term ship life as an excuse to cheat. And when I first came on board, I was so confused because I was like, what do you mean ship life? It's real life. And they're like, no, it's just ship life. I can do what I want. Wait. And you know, I don't know the ins and outs of everyone's relationship. Maybe they have like some sort of agreement, like when they're not together, but I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way.
I've said this many times before that ship life is like Neverland. You kind of feel like you never have to grow up, and some people really don't grow up and they forget that there is consequences to their actions. Unfortunately though, a lot of the time there aren't consequences to their actions, because when you're from America and you're on a cruise ship in South Asia, like who's gonna know? If you tell everybody on the ship that you're single but you've actually got a wife or a husband at home, the two worlds are never gonna meet. So yeah, people do get away with really bad behavior.
Also, everyone on the ship is ranked, so sometimes there's a very interesting power dynamic in some of these relationships. Working on a ship is literally like you're living in a floating bubble, your own little world. There's another aspect of ship life is if you're in a full relationship and then your contract ends and you leave the ship, oh, relationship over, you're gone.
Yeah, I've definitely had that before where been in a relationship or a thing and it's like, right, had a great time, thanks, have a nice life, and that's it, and it's done. And what's really nice is when you kind of go into it knowing that that's going to be the situation, and like, okay, we're going to be together while we're on this ship, and then I wish you well and all good. But it is really difficult when you get your feelings involved and you're like, oh, I don't want this to end, but you're from Argentina, so it has to.
Moral of the story is I'm definitely not finding my person working on a cruise ship.
Words to live by, honestly.
Cheating on cruise ships is a big problem. There are a lot of crew that cheat on their spouses, their boyfriends, their girlfriends on the ship, don't have this whole other secret life on board. So my name's Gage, I'm a cruise director on a cruise ship, and I've seen this time and time again. Now there are so many positive things about working on cruise ships, and I love it so much. So many good things about it. But this is one of the negative things. This culture has been created that kind of makes it not okay, but some people believe it's okay to kind of have two separate lives. One, on board the cruise ship where they're unmarried, they'll take off that ring and suddenly they just go willy-nilly and hook up with whoever they want, have a full-on girlfriend or other relationship, or just are doing more fun things along the way.
I mean, as I said, people definitely, I think, just get in their head about the fact that, like, well, who's gonna know?
But then at the same time, we'll have a family, a wife, a husband, and children back home. Now, some of these people are actually straight back home, or whatever the country they're from, but then on board, they're hooking up with other guys or other girls. It is pretty crazy, to say the least.
So in some countries, even today, it is still frowned upon to be openly gay. So what I could not believe, but something I saw a lot, is men and women who had a family back home and they came on board and they were the gayest person you have ever met in your life. So camp that you're like, I don't understand how your wife doesn't know you're gay, but they can put on a real good front. So it's almost like their real life is their secret life. Back home, they have the wife and the kids to make their parents happy and keep everyone happy. And that was something that really shocked me, is how one person can have such a shift in personality. Like, mind-blowing how one person can be two people. Like, I worked with a guy who had a wife and 6 kids at home, and when he was on board, he would literally come to the crew bar dressed as a woman. And a stunning woman. Like, he looked great as a woman. So, but everyone was like, how does you have 6 children, like, what, and a wife? It was just mind-blowing. And then you'd see him at work and he would have his like straight persona on and his voice would be a little bit deeper, and it was mind-bending.
Now, one of my ex-boyfriends on the ships actually cheated on me with someone else on the ships, and we kind of he had 2 relationships kind of at the same time, so I've seen it happen firsthand. It does happen. It's a terrible thing. He's kind of a terrible person, but it is kind of like the culture that this has created, because he was kind of closeted and no one knew he was gay or whatever. And so was this other guy. So there's a lot of closeted people on board the ships, just because they can live in this little bubble where they can live out this fantasy, and then they go back home and they revert back to like their straight persona. But yeah, cheating is a big issue. I've seen it time and time again. There was one instance where this wife came on board, and her husband, who I didn't even know he had a wife, had this well-known girlfriend on the ships. Well, the girlfriend comes up to the wife and is like, oh, blah, 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 acting like she's friends with her and all these things. And everyone just watched like, wow, this is so sad. The wife is completely unaware that he has this whole other thing. It's not like they were in an open relationship. He was completely cheating on her. She was completely unaware of this. And I wanted to say something, but who am I to jump in and ruin this marriage, even though the marriage was already ruined, but little did she know. But it was really, really sad. But again, this is just one negative in a sea of so many positive things working on cruise ships, and I love it so much. But this one toxic culture that has kind of been created on ships in general across the board is something that I don't enjoy. Especially after experiencing it firsthand. Seeing it happen to other people, terrible, but experiencing it yourself and knowing that kind of they're living this secret double life is pretty insane, to say the least.
I remember I was working on cruise ship with a guy, and he was dating this girl, And they were together, like everyone knew they were together. And then one day I turned up at work and he was stood with this other girl that I'd never seen before. And he was like, oh, hey, Lucy, I want to introduce you to my girlfriend. She's come on to cruise. And I was like, oh, like, hi, nice to meet you. And had to pretend that I didn't know that he had a full-on girlfriend who was working opposite us. It was quite funny, actually, because during that week, she was literally staring daggers into the shop. Crazy. It's crazy the things that you see. And here, I mean, I wish I could divulge all of the stories that I have, because they're absolutely insane. And half of them you wouldn't even believe that they're real because they're so nuts. But unfortunately, they are real.
One of the wildest things about working on a cruise ship was how commonplace cheating was amongst staff members. One week you'd see the captain down in the crew bar shacking up with one of the girls in the waitstaff team, and then the next week you'd see the exact same captain touring his wife and son around the cruise ship. It was so common.
Maybe we
and the
were on the
wildest
same
thing is
cruise
the
ship.
captains have the shortest contracts on the cruise ships. It's not like they're away from their partners 6 months at a time. It's shorter than that. It's like 3. And a lot of people say, yeah, but that's just ship life. And I don't think it has to be. I worked with a lot of people that, although it was a struggle, they didn't cheat on their partners. And they waited the 6-month contract to go see their partners, and they made it work. Anyways, I don't know why I'm so pressed about it, but it was something that was very, very shocking to me when I first got on board the cruise ship, because I saw it within the first week. And don't get me started on the guests. My God, fights would break out between wives' husbands because a wife would sleep with another branded person and then the husband would find out and then they'd fight on the ship.
So cheating. I'm not saying that everybody does it, but it has become so normalised that people don't really even blink an eye when they see it happening. So with all that being said, I want to give you a few words of wisdom. If you are with someone at home, you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they want to go and work on cruise ships, or if you have a boyfriend